Hi, everybody.
Thanks.
I know it's at least going to be the three of us, so we get you guys in tweet. No, I didn't want Romney Smith. What the hell? And there we go. Welcome to Drac Failing at Twitter Live. And I'm not even facing Alex. Do you not hear me?
I can hear you.
Okay. I could hear me. There you go. Welcome, everybody. We're just getting everybody gathered together, and then we've got an entertainment hour to talk about tonight. I wish I could say there was more to it than that, but there was lots of entertainment news that caught our eye and that needed to be talked about. So, well, apparently I cannot. I'm gonna hack up a lung in a second. I'm hoping not to. There we go. All right, cool. We are all social media'd. The social media has happened. Are we all happy and proud about that?
Sure, I guess.
Yay. Next is the toolbox. Because now we have the new toolbox, which actually works.
Yeah, I keep forgetting that.
See, let's get the Twitter in there, and then I apparently can't spell Twitter. Are we all proud of me right now? I can't spell the tweeter. I can't do it. Oh, that always bothers me. Okay, there we go. There we go. I am special. I am special. I got everything done before the podcast. This is quality entertainment that you guys are logging into. I'm proud.
Yes.
I'm proud of myself.
Yes, only the best. Only the best.
And by the best, I mean I've been dealing with a crying kid for most of the day, and I've lost most of my energy. So yeah, like I said, tonight we're going to be talking. Basically, we have an entertainment hour. That's what we have. There is some tech stories, but they're gonna take maybe 15, 20 minutes. But in our case, it's going to be like 30. And then we're going to be talking nothing but entertainment because holy announcements, Batman.
Mm-hmm.
One in particular, people have been reaching out going, have you seen this? Yes, we have. If it makes you feel any better, me and Brenton saw it at the exact same time. And confirmed, we were both flabbergasted. And then an hour later, I was confirmed to be bamboozled.
That just leaves me to wonder why nobody's made a Pokemon called Flabbergastly. Would that be like a Mega Evolution? Well, yeah, but like, would that be like a special upgraded version of Ghastly, where it's like a mix between a Ghastly and a Snorlax? Like maybe it's the ghost of a Snorlax?
Actually, I was gonna say, since you put the Ghastly part at the end, I'd be like, that sounds cute. So that would be a pre-evolution of Ghastly.
Yeah. I always get the order of all the ghosts mixed up. I thought Ghastly was at the end. Now that I remember, oh yeah, that's right. It goes Ghastly, Haunter, then Gengar.
Yeah. Well, I just looked at it and went, if you look at all the and this is riveting conversation, by the way, for all of us. If you look at all the pre-evolutions in Pokemon, at least the ones that I've looked at, they're all cutesy. They're all like Pichu and Igglybuff and is it Cleffa? Cleffa's the Clefairy one.
Yeah, Cleffa.
Then we have Elekid, which is again cute. Magby. What's the Mr. Mime one? Because I don't remember that one.
I didn't even realize there was a Mr. Mime one.
I think there is. Alex, there is a pre-evolution to Mr. Mime, isn't there? Like Mimey or something?
Mime Jr.
Mime Jr. So at that point, it's like all of them have cutesy names. So congratulations, Romney just came up with the pre-evolution for Ghastly. Normally people would say it's just a ghost, but no, Flabbergastly.
Either that or it would be a Ghastly. Either that or it would be a Ghastly modeled after the very obscure side Zordon character from Big Bad Beetleborgs.
That too. I was actually going to say no Flabbergastly because I don't want to Rule 34 that. The ultimate form would be Flatulence. Are you kidding me, Hero? Flatulence takes many forms. It does not need to keep itself to one. Trust me and my brother, we did the homework.
Yeah.
Now people are picturing it like a basement room, kind of like Billy's and Power Rangers, the movie, of like all the thumbtacks in the wall and strings of yarn everywhere, and it's all about poop and farts and gas.
Well, sadly, that's still not the worst thing one could research. Not by a long shot.
No. I've had a couple of worst moments this week, and I wish I could take them back, but you can't.
Nope.
The one that surprised me was I did a search for. I'm working on the formal review. It's coming out soon. The formal review for Horizon Zero Dawn. Do not do a search of Aloy alone. The internet. They had a couple of months at this point, but they got to it.
Yep. Rules 34 and 35. If it exists, there's porn of it. And if there is no porn, it will be made.
Yeah. It's like, dude, it's been like 3 to 4 months, for crying out loud. And then I realized, oh, wait, the Widowmaker and Tracer stuff literally started happening about 2 months before the game even came out.
Well, heck, the stuff for Wii Fit Trainer started within 2 days after she was announced for Smash. 2 days!
Yeah. Was there stuff of her before that, like for actual Wii Fit?
There was, but it was very limited. But as soon as she was announced for Smash, that's when the floodgates opened, and that's why I made that little. I don't know who else has seen it, but it's that little comic of Samus consoling the Wii Fit Trainer. But that's why I drew that comic, just because of how quickly, and even in the DeviantArt comics are just like, oh yeah, how long did it take? And I'm just like 2 days, and basically a bunch of people were just like, Jesus.
What anime have I watched recently? Oh, this is going to be embarrassing, but I don't care. I've had a really bad Yu-Gi-Oh fix, and I can't explain it to you guys. But I've basically just been, when I get a free minute, because most of my time this week has been taken up with recording stuff, with editing stuff, and all that. But then at the end of the day, I've been watching basically my favorite duels in Yu-Gi-Oh and just going through them. I'm not watching an entire season all the way through. I'm going like, oh, I like that duel. I will watch it.
Yeah. Still not sure how to feel about Vrains.
Is that the new one?
Yeah, that's the new one. Because in the past ones...
I was curious because while I was watching all this Yu-Gi-Oh, Zexal kept coming up on my screen, so I was like, is that still new?
Yeah, they've moved on to Vrains, but what makes it weird is that with Vrains, like Zexal and Arc V, those were appealing to kids. Vrains, they're now trying to swing back and appeal to older fans because of the popularity of the Android app and how it brought back a lot of older players. And so Vrains is kind of trying to be, at least from my understanding, it's kind of trying to be the Sword Art Online of the Yu-Gi-Oh universe. Well, not so much Sword Art Online. Think more, I guess, there's not a lot of anime about hacking. I guess the closest thing I could think of would be something like Eden
itself?
Yes, because it involves
it's a gimmick in anime.
Well, yeah, because the concept of Vrains itself involves hacking, and basically you've got two different factions of hackers that are basically waging duels within a virtual game, and the main character joins the good hackers, and he has to fight against the bad hackers.
Oh, it was season 3 of Yu-Gi-Oh?
Yes, except this time with even more of a VR gimmick. Thus, I mean, I was tempted to check it out, but then I realized, oh yeah, I don't have the kind of money. Well, I mean, I have the kind of money, but I don't want to spend money on the cards anymore.
And yet, strangely, that sounds like a better gimmick than card games on motorcycles.
Card games on motorcycles!
Thank you, Romney, because I couldn't do it right now. If I did it, I'd wake her up. Yeah, like I've actually looked at the because there's a bunch of series on there on Hulu, so it's like I might look into Zexal, but I'm never looking into 5Ds because I'm not interested.
Zexal's not much better. I've seen some episodes, and keep in mind it's still the 4Kids dub, so.
Well, at least we know we can get classic moments from the original series and from GX.
Yeah, mainly because I still find it so weird that Konami now owns 4Kids. They literally bought 4Kids after the lawsuit and renamed it to 4K Media. It still just blows my mind.
In fact, one of the things that was really funny was the thought that crossed my mind is like, I should have the Geek News crew on the couch with me right now as we go through the corniness of these duels. Because, man, there is such schlock to be found. Like, even in my favorite stuff, I'm even sitting there, this is like maybe my third time watching that stuff. It was like, really, Kaiba? Really?
Yeah. But again, that's why Yu-Gi-Oh! Abridged has lasted for so long.
Yeah. Yeah, but I'm saying, like, I love Yu-Gi-Oh! Abridged, but the series itself did more than enough of that on their own. That it's absolutely hilarious. Even in my favorite duels, it happens a lot. We went off into a tangent, but there you go, Jiro. Unfortunately, I have not been able to get to much else. So, like, when I get to the end of the day, I'm like, I'm gonna itch my Yu-Gi-Oh! Fix.
Yeah, I still have a mountain of anime and Western animation DVDs I still need to plow through. Like, most recently, I bought both the complete series of The Last Airbender and The Legend of Korra because they were both on sale, so it's now a case of, okay, now I just need to sit down and watch 8 seasons of a TV show.
The other thing too is, well, if you're hoping that I watch something else because Shadow Blazer also watches me very diligently in this regard, I am going to be watching a little bit of Gundam tonight because we actually are going to be recording stuff tomorrow, so that's going to be a thing. But I already know, Zero, like, I can kind of feel like I know where you're going. Have I watched any of the Mamoru Hosoda stuff. No. I actually spent a good portion of the week trying to figure out, could I get things streaming? Do I have to get DVDs? Things like that. And I got my questions answered, so yeah, might happen. Why, are you asking for a vlog or something? So I'll do it. People have already asked me to go finish Ghibli, even though I didn't vlog it. Does that mean I have to start over, Alex?
I don't know. Does it?
Chat.
I think you've got enough on your plate.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Well, because I was doing the Ghibli movies, and then I was actually reviewing them on our Let's Plays. You know, like, and then I would put the list, like, I actually started ranking them, and I would put them on Facebook, and I was like, yeah. Yes, you have to start over, but do it backwards this time. Cool, I get to start with the Wind Rises. I love the Wind Rises. I watch that, like, yearly now.
Well, I guess that really depends. Are you going Ghibli as in strictly Miyazaki, or are you also including the Takahata films as well?
Or any of their other library, too.
I did. I didn't include others. The only thing that I had a problem with Takahata was all of the ones that got recommended to me were all subtitled, and I did not want to do subtitles. I might be willing to do that now, as long as it's easy enough to get access to. But well, I know that actually have to worry, because I know at least one of the Takahata films is going to get dubbed pretty soon, because Daisy Ridley's in it.
Well, not really soon. The dub's already out.
Is it? Okay, cool.
Like, yeah, Only Yesterday and Tale of Princess Kaguya. Both of those are Takahata films, and they both have dubs. The dub for Princess Kaguya has Chloe Grace Moretz in it.
Ah, gotcha. Didn't Ghibli do a 25-episode show a couple of years ago? What?
Yeah, Ronia the Robber's Daughter.
Okay. Oh,
yeah,
okay.
That one,
For some reason, I went like, Ghibli reviewed their own stuff? That seems a little weird.
Yeah.
What do we think of Nausicaa and the Valley of the Wind? Good! What do we think of, what's a bad Ghibli movie? What's considered a bad Ghibli movie?
Tales from Earthsea.
What do we think of Tales from Earthsea? Good! There you go.
Well, that's what happens when you give Goro...
good.
Yeah. See, I don't think even Goro would say it was good, and Goro was the one who directed it.
The animator would, because he worked his ass off. And he wants recognition.
They all worked their asses off. But they had so many problems making the movie. So they're a little bit ashamed of it now.
Yeah.
Yeah, especially since I'm sure there was probably even a bit of a language factor, since it was one of the few times that they've adapted foreign language stories. Now, granted, they've done it before with When Marnie Was There and Howl's Moving Castle, which I was surprised to learn was based on a novel.
Oh, really?
But it's just I tried reading Tales of Earth. I didn't know that. I didn't realize that until I was researching for the review of Princess Kaguya. When I was doing research for the review of When Marnie Was There, that a list came up saying, "Oh, Ghibli movies you didn't know were based on books," and it listed Howl's Moving Castle as one of them, which it's
surprising to me.
Yeah, and I guess it shows.
That's actually where it is, I think. I never got to Howl's.
In the case of Tales from Earthsea, I tried reading the story because there was an English textbook in my junior high English class that actually had excerpts from it, and I was bored. Of course, that was before I was really into fantasy, although that was also the same book in which I read Flowers for Algernon for the first time, which was weird, but also sad.
Okay, and I just barely realized we're 15 minutes over, so let's go ahead and get started. Because we got stuff to get
Sound speed. Yes, we do.
Recording. Alex, recording?
Got it.
Okay, 3, 2, 1. All right. Here we go, everybody. Welcome, everybody, to another episode of Geek News, Reviews, and Opinions, the podcast where we talk the week's events in Geek. I'm your host, Adam Mickelson, a.k.a. Drac. I hope everybody's had an awesome week. For me, it's been awesome just because I've gotten tons of stuff done in the process, getting ready for things like E3, a lot of our summer plans, et cetera, et cetera. So it's been an awesome week for me. And of course, I'm not alone. I'm being joined by my usual panel of fellow geeks and fellow YouTubers and fellow awesome guys in general. Let's go ahead and start things off with Stephen Romney of Studio Ghost Utah of From the Shelf, Romney's Reviews. Romney, how you doing tonight?
I'm doing pretty well. The week has pretty much been off to it. It's pretty much been an okay week all around. I've been working both on the latest episode of From the Shelf, although I've run into some unforeseen difficulties in the form of trying to get footage from a video game I can't capture from. So there's that. But also getting back to writing stuff for the sake of writing stuff, such as a pilot script and a few other projects, just not writing for a YouTube video, but just writing more long-form stuff just to get it out there. So that's been pretty fun.
Nice. So we're also being joined by the Shadow Blazer himself, Alex Short. How are you doing tonight, Alex?
Overall, I'd say I'm pretty good tonight. Tired because I worked this morning, but that's kind of typical for me any Friday night. But
Well, things
I
are
had
going
a
to get tired for...
pretty good week.
Sorry, I was going to say things are going to get tired for us because due to other changes, we actually have to change our recording schedule, and that's going to be fun.
Yeah, we'll probably be bouncing around a bit. But overall, I had a pretty good week because I got some actual good news for a change. A couple weeks ago, I put up my Yuri on Ice video, my review for Yuri on Ice. Of course, surprise, surprise, it got instant copyright flagged and blocked worldwide. So, of course, I do the usual file my counterclaim, but by all accounts, I was expecting to be rejected because the last several claims on different videos I've filed have always been rejected. So I was pretty much ready for the worst. And no, actually, I got good news. They actually released my claim.
Yay!
And so I'm happy about that. So
yeah, I saw
the video
that.
is still up and it's still available.
There you go. So if you guys want to see what Alex thought about Yuri on Ice, it is available, so you guys can check it out. And yeah, I saw that news earlier. Congrats, man. That was awesome to have happen just out of the blue. But yeah, we have tons of stories to actually get to, and I'm just going to warn people in advance. As far as I'm concerned tonight, there is no tech hour because we have two tech stories. And yes, we're going to talk about tech, but really the stuff that happened this week was all entertainment oriented. And I'm kind of happy about that. Because for the next few weeks, or 2 weeks from now, it's going to be nothing but tech hour because of E3 coverage. So tonight we get to do the opposite and cover a bunch of entertainment stuff. Some of it from last week. Like I said, I was going to go work on a story in the meantime, and actually I was able to confirm, deny, all that stuff. And so we do have Netflix stuff to talk about tonight. But let's go ahead and get things started with the tech portion, which I can't even believe I got this, but I got a few listeners wanting to bring this to my attention, which was the fact that, unfortunately, earlier this week, Rockstar fans and fans in particular of the Red Dead Redemption or Red Dead series got some bad news, and that is that Red Dead Redemption 2, which has been hinted at since the beginning of this year, we got trailers and all that stuff, unfortunately got delayed to spring 2018. Now, I have been able to confirm that it will have a presence at E3, not a big one, but it will have a presence. So I guess my advice to you guys would be, if you're a fan of Red Dead Redemption 2, watch that stuff, because that's really what's going to keep you going until the game releases, unless of course Rockstar puts out more stuff. But I think Rockstar, correct me if I'm wrong, because I'm not a hardcore Rockstar fan, people, but Rockstar doesn't update that much. So at that point, when you get something, it's basically what has to feed you for that year or so. But yeah, so let's go ahead and get into the panelists' viewpoints on this. Yeah, I cannot believe so many listeners reached out to us and said, please report this. This is so frustrating for me. I've been waiting for so long. And I'm not saying I hate Red Dead. I played Red Dead Redemption, and I liked it. I liked how it ended. I was frustrated throughout most of the game, but I was satisfied with the ending. Romney, have you ever played the series or even seen it?
I've seen it, but I haven't really played it. And again, full disclosure, I'm not really a big fan of a lot of the sandbox games. And so I just never really had much of an interest. I mean, I understand why they would be frustrated given how sparse the details are and how long it's been before hearing any news, and to have the only news be, oh, it's being delayed, it can be kind of frustrating. So I get where a lot of the listeners are coming from in them wanting to report it. I mean, it sucks, but honestly, after I don't know, I guess it may just be because I'm getting older where I'm just like, yeah, I'm used to games being delayed, but the market is already saturated enough. I'm not particularly hurting.
Yeah. For those who are asking about like details on what's actually going on, we didn't get too many details from Rockstar. We know that they're having some issues in the development process. They want to get those taken care of before they release the game. So at least that's a good sign. It's not like they're being lazy about this. I know a lot of people have actually been assuming on the Twitter sphere and all that a delay just means instantly you're being lazy kind of thing. And that's not necessarily the case. Unforeseen circumstances can happen a lot in development, and the companies that are open about it, I applaud, because there are some out there that aren't open about it, and they release the game, they haven't properly fixed the bugs, and then we're talking about them for the next 3 months. So
yeah, and the thing to keep in mind here is that Rockstar wants to put out a good product. They don't want to pull a Ubisoft where they're putting out one every single year. I mean, when you look at the gap between Grand Theft Auto 4 and Grand Theft Auto 5, and all the various stuff around that, I mean, I may not be a fan of their games, but at least shows, hey, they're willing to actually put the time and effort to make sure that it's a good quality product at the end of when it's launched. Unlike Ubisoft,
I mean, just look at the gap between Red Dead Redemption and this one. I'm looking it up right now, but I think it was like, yeah, it was 2010. It's been 7 years.
Yep.
That's amazing.
Yeah, and so honestly, if it's a game that's constantly delayed, that's one thing. But with Rockstar, it's very much a case of they want to make sure they're putting out a good product because, well, we've seen the opposite end of the spectrum of rushing out sandbox games with, Assassin's Creed and Watch Dogs and the buggy messes those games turn into. So it's a case of, okay, this delay is not so much, oh, they're just being lazy. So like, no, they realized, hey, there's something we need to work on and we need the time to work on it. And so, yeah, I'm with you. I applaud them for them saying, hey, it's delayed, because it means you're going to get a better product in the long run.
Exactly. And we're also being joined by a live chat. I always forget to mention that, so the chat will probably have to smack me upside the head when I do that. But there are actually some good points being brought up as well. We got somebody who actually kind of works in software. Delays are very common since unexpected things are always happening, especially if you don't want to sacrifice quality. Exactly. And then also, Dodger did report this, and she said that this is a usual, but it's better to delay and have a better game than a quick release with crappy bugged game like, say, Call of Duty, Battlefield, Street Fighter V is the one that gets brought up. Street Fighter V
Assassin's Creed Unity.
It's not that Street Fighter V was bugged, or it's not that it was bugged. It's that pieces were literally missing. Pieces were. It's like you were trying to build a PC, and they handed you the with nothing in it. That's what happened with Street Fighter V. At least that's my viewpoint on the matter. But the other thing, too, that they have said in order to make up for this is that they will be doing a string of summer updates to keep people in the loop on that. So we have more details about the game coming out this summer and a selection of new screenshots to check out. And some of those are out now. More are going to be coming out later. So that's basically to keep people in the loop as to what they're doing until the game actually releases, hopefully in spring 2018. Alex, you are not a Rockstar fan. I know this much.
Not really.
So
Nothing personal or anything.
But at this point, I mean, you've had your share of delays on games. So does this sound like very common sense to you, or are you actually mad about it?
Yeah, just sounds like the usual. They are still fine-tuning all the details. Video games are complicated, especially video games created in this day and age. They're super complicated. They're hard to make. I've never really worked on one myself, but I can only imagine how difficult it is to make one. So, it's just better. And I think it's good though that they're saying they're going to keep people updated as the summer comes through. So for those who are really just anticipating, it's like, that's good. I mean, the worst is when companies just go absolute blank silence, because that's happened obviously on more than one occasion with multitude of games throughout the years. It's like So a delay happens, and then the company just goes silent, and then somehow it gets quietly canceled. So I don't think we're in cancellation territory. I think obviously it's just Rockstar's saying we got some more work to do.
Rockstar actually, I don't think, has too much of a track record when it comes to cancellations. They've pretty much put out most of the games that they've come out with. So at that point, at least Rockstar fans have that kind of pedigree behind it. When they make games, it's going to be worth the wait, kind of thing. So I think this is going to be overall not too bad. But yeah, I mean, the fact that they actually came out, I agree with you, Alex. The fact they came out when they had no obligation to do that. They don't even have the obligation to say, here's why. You know, all they have to do is notify the public it's delayed. And the fact that these developers actually do come out and say this and then say, okay, we're going to give you guys updates, don't worry about that. Compared to other developers, they really aren't required to do it. But
yeah,
they want to do it.
It is just good business sense. It's
good business sense, but also it's a factor of they want to do it. And that helps. That earns you loyalty as far as I'm concerned. Because, you know, in case people couldn't tell what I was actually trying to do, cough, cough, EA, cough, cough, they will notify you of the delay, but they won't necessarily tell you why. It's only when the companies like BioWare themselves reach out is when you find out. Kind of thing. But EA literally looks at it and goes, we don't have to tell you. Kind of thing. So, unfortunately, there isn't a whole lot to say aside from that. It sucks. But at least it's, you know, I actually had to go out and look to see if it was actually going to make E3. It is going to make it, so you guys can get that, work with that, and also the summer stuff as much as you can. And hopefully they don't have any more delays, and the game releases spring 2018. Or yeah, look at Last Guardian, an Ultimate game that got delayed again and again and again.
I mean, another example you can look at, Final Fantasy 15. It was delayed so much that it literally had to change its title partway through development.
Well, and Last Guardian got canceled. Last Guardian was canned for a good 2 years. And the fact that we started hearing rumors surface, that was a thing. So there you go. The next segment that we have tonight is our Nintendo talk, which unfortunately isn't too much to talk about, but let's get into it. First of all, we have some good news from Nintendo, at least good news for the moment. So the Financial Times newspaper actually reported on Wednesday that as of that day, so on Wednesday, the Nintendo's Japanese market gained to close at 31,880 yen, approximately $285 worth US, and it is the company's highest closing level since 2008. Okay, people actually have asked, like, you keep on saying that Nintendo's had problems. How long has Nintendo been having problems? That's how long, people. Almost 10 years they've been having issues. So 2008, that would put us right at the first year of the Wii closing. So at that point, that's where we're at. Is that it took this long? So Wii U, Switch to turn that around. And now the company closed higher than its previous peak, which was July 20th last year, which wasn't even Nintendo. It was because of Niantic releasing Pokemon Go. So, I mean, at that point, they got a peak because Pokemon is theirs. But I think it mostly went
dropped immediately.
Yeah.
Yeah, it dropped immediately when Nintendo had to come out and say, hey, we don't actually make the game. We're not actually making money off of it. And it took an 18% drop the following week.
You know the guy that actually had to say that? When he got to the back, he was beaten mercilessly by everybody. He's like, dude, we were doing well. How can you do it? And yeah, that's what happened. So this is good news. I'm not saying that it's bad. It's not bad news by any stretch. But again, it's one of those things where, am I going to be that guy who immediately stands on my chair and goes, oh yeah, Nintendo's back? No. Nope. You've still got a whole year ahead of you. And
yep,
it's like the first 6 months can be good, but then you can have a craptastic end of the year, and that's going to affect your sales again. It's going to affect your profits again. So as much as this is good news, I'm going to ask people, take it with a grain of salt. We need to see what happens at the end of this year. How did the Switch actually do compared to its console predecessors? before we actually say it's a victory.
Yeah, especially when you need to look at how it performed during the fiscal year, which is measured differently. It starts and ends on a different point in the year than a regular calendar year. Since that's really, I believe the last fiscal year ended, I think, last month or so.
Yep.
Was when the last fiscal year ended. And so that's also going to be the real mark of, okay, how well did it do during the first fiscal quarter? Okay, how well did it do? Did that success carry over to the next quarter? Did we have an overall good year? And so that's kind of how this sort of thing works. Business is a lot like, basically imagine playing a real-time strategy game, except with no UI, and the only data you get is basically from other people. And that's basically business in a nutshell. And this is good.
I'm glad you brought up the quarters, though, really quick, because people did bring this up to me as like, look at the quarters, or the fiscal quarters for Nintendo. They're doing really, really well. A quarter can only tell you so much. Because, look, every game company and every console developer knows that there are ups and downs. There are slow seasons in there. And technically, Nintendo was releasing their brand new console in a slow part of the season. So at that point, it actually, there's a bunch of market people who would have looked at Nintendo going, what are you, stupid? Don't do that. And at that point...
To a point, they were kind of divided, because on the one hand, some people are like, why aren't you releasing this around Christmas? But then on the other hand, as we all observed, they're waiting to do the big holiday push when there's enough software to actually justify the purchase, because that was the mistake they made with the Wii U, where they were pushing it out the door with barely any software available.
Yep. And the fact that they actually had to go and basically double talk their own advertisements, because people were still believing at that point the Wii U was just an add-on for the Wii. So they already walked in the negative in that regard. So I'm not trying to be Mr. Negative here, but this is one of those things where take it with a grain of salt. We need to see end of the year estimates for Nintendo before I'm willing, at least, to say this has been a good year or this has been a bad year for Nintendo, because anything can happen. Alex, you've been kind of quiet on this one mainly because we're talking financials, and you don't want to talk financials because you just got out of work. But how do you take the news that's given in this article?
I'd say it's at least warning of some nice cautious optimism here, because I was pretty skeptical about launching a console in the middle of it's the start of March, very off season. It's kind of the fine line between the post-Christmas shopping season, which is dead in terms of retail, which is obviously where most consoles are going to be sold, and before summer season kind of kicks in, and even summer has its lulls before back to school shopping, and that just depends on the area of retail. But I'd say for a March console release, and the fact Nintendo has had such a high return even for now, is pretty good. That's pretty good for them. But it's like you said, we got to at least be we got to approach it with some caution, because, well, we did see the bubble burst when it came to Pokemon Go, which, it inflated them for a bit, but then the bottom fell out pretty quickly. So we'll have to wait and see at the end of the fiscal year and the end of the calendar year as well, probably to an extent, how well Nintendo will have overall performed.
Yeah. For the record, just what we're saying here is, don't pop the cork just yet. Don't put on the celebrate good times just yet. Get through the year with your game face, and then at that point we can celebrate.
Well, yeah, and the off-season thing that Alex mentioned kind of reminds me of another thing we need to consider, is that sales trends are starting to change across different media because of different factors, like the internet making information transmit much more quickly. I mean, the closest example I can think of, which was a risk by a large company, was the release date for Captain America Winter Soldier. It was released in April, which was considered a dead zone for a lot of movie releases. But lo and behold, now everybody's trying to release their big genre films in April to get ahead of the summer movie season. Nintendo is probably hoping to produce a similar effect by releasing the console in a season that most people don't expect, because there's little competition. It will allow you to dominate the press for a while. And so that's probably why Nintendo chose such an off season, because in March, nobody else is releasing a game console. So what is everyone talking about? The Switch.
Exactly. So at that point, I mean, this worked out in Nintendo's favor. It could have easily blown up in their face. Like if we did not have such a good solid like this. What do I actually explain? The Switch conference that we got right before then, I swear 80% of the hype for that was built either on the initial trailer that we got for the Switch and that. So that could have easily gone bad, and we could be talking a whole different story with the Switch right now. So with that, we also do have some additional Nintendo news tonight, and I don't know why people reached out. Actually, no, I know why people approached me on this, because a few people were open and honest about it. They actually wanted me to do it for a milestone, which was apparently there's a new Pokemon mobile app right now called Magikarp Jump. Now, I will admit, before I even saw the trailer, I literally thought this was going to be like, oh, it's Nintendo's version of Flappy Bird, except it's with a Magikarp. That's weird. And then I saw the trailer. I don't know what you were thinking, Pokemon Company. So for those who have not seen the trailer, Magikarp Jump is basically... this is the best way I know how to describe it, and I'm going to let Alex and Romney kind of step in if I'm not doing it proper justice. But it's basically a Magikarp Tamagotchi kind of thing. You get a Magikarp, and your goal is to train it. So, and by training it, we mean you actually have it flap around on the ground. You can have it hit a punching bag for a little bit. You can have them jump, and it kind of simulates old school Kirby Super Nintendo game kind of struggle there. But that's basically what you do. You train a Magikarp, what is considered to be one of the worst Pokemon ever devised by Nintendo. That's all this app is about.
Yeah, second only to Goldeen.
And yet, strangely, they can't understand why they have poor sales right now. Because it is out, and it's not doing well.
Yeah, given that there was like... I didn't even know the app really existed, because for some reason... To kind of explain, I was really into like the whole Pokemon Black and White Dream thing, so I still have a Pokemon account, so I still get emails from them. And that was how I found out literally like 2 hours before we came on the air. It was like, oh, it's a Magikarp app. Meh.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, Pokemon Go, I would actually dare say, is probably a little bit more curious. It's a little bit more tantalizing than this. Because at that point, it's like, oh, you can go out into the world and capture Pokemon. This is just, hey, this is a Magikarp. It flops around on the ground. You want to train it? Yeah, let's go ahead and train it.
Yeah, but at least the difference here is that if you train a Magikarp enough, it will evolve into a Gyarados. Goldeen's got nothing.
Well, you're correct in the Pokemon games. I don't even think Magikarp evolved in this app.
Yeah. Who knows? I'm not going to download it. I'm honestly not interested. So it's very much a case of, oh, Nintendo's still trying to get their feet wet with mobile. I mean, they've had some successes with stuff like Super Mario Run and Fire Emblem Heroes. And maybe they're thinking, okay, let's see if we can get a slice of that pie. Nope, that's not working. Okay, I guess not.
Yeah, exactly. Now, I'd like people to pay attention to this face right here. See this face right here? This is the face of someone plotting. This is the face of someone sitting there and going, I can make pain out of this. This is a face that tells you he can create pain for his partner on their YouTube channel and telling him to download the damn app. No, Alex, no, I won't do it. No. Your thoughts on it?
I couldn't even get you to do Pokemon Go.
Well, we might still have to do it. I have told people, like, if we hit like halfway into the milestone, and if you guys want it, we'll do it. I will go and do Pokemon Go. So, but your thoughts on the Magikarp app? Are you even remotely interested in this?
No, what a stupid idea for an app. Of all the Pokemon in the world to pick, to raise, why friggin' Magikarp? Why not Pikachu? I know that calls back to Hey You Pikachu, but it still makes more sense than Magikarp.
Or like, I don't know, I'm spitballing here. Why not Eevee? And then at that point, like, if you go in different directions, then you get different evolutions out of it. You don't necessarily rely on the stones. Or like you said, Pikachu. What's another cute one that's been featured in the TV show? Togepi. Pidgey, Caterpie. I mean, there's so many others that you could do that it would be so much more compelling. Magikarp?
Yeah, really, Magikarp.
I guess the only reason was like they thought, oh well, this Pokemon flops around and doesn't really have any special attacks, which means we don't have to create any new animation.
This is true, but it's Magikarp. Magikarp doesn't sell things.
No. Even
I mean, if you evolved him into like a super powerful Gyarados, that'd be awesome. But from what I can tell about this app, no, at level 20, it's still a Magikarp.
Yeah. Honestly, the best way if they wanted to do something like that would be, I don't know, maybe instead of the Tamagotchi approach, it probably would have been better if they went the approach of, okay, it's like a mini game where get up the waterfall, turn it into a Gyarados, and you win. And maybe just basically go the Flappy Bird route, except have it be that the reward for getting to the end of the level is that the Magikarp you hopped all the way through becomes a Gyarados and can get revenge on all the other trainers that mocked him.
Yeah, exactly. That might actually be worth it, but no, we're giving a Magikarp app. Thanks, Pokemon. So there really isn't a whole lot to say aside from that. You guys have seen our disgust on the matter. At least our financials are doing okay, but then they released the Magikarp app, and I'm expecting a dive.
Yeah, but at least Nintendo's at least good at one thing. They at least know not to put all of their eggs in one basket. I mean, they're not resting. It's not like the Pokemon franchise is resting on the hopes of the Magikarp app.
Well, and before we blame Nintendo too much, I mean, the Pokemon company has said that they weren't, or they're more the mastermind of this than Nintendo was. So at that point, if you want to blame somebody, blame the Pokemon company. It'll make you feel better. We can say that at least. All right, so let's go ahead and get into the entertainment portion of the evening. And oh boy, lots of stuff happened in the entertainment industry, so you guys have lots to look forward to tonight, especially in the silly department, because we had lots of that. Let's see. Okay, so the first one we need to get into, I actually had one story of this, and then Alex found another, because the original story was that that Tom Cruise had gone to a talk show in, I think it was Britain, and he actually told them, and he gave them exclusive information because somebody asked about Top Gun 2. And he said, I'm giving you information. You're the first one. Yes, it's still in development. People might remember a couple of years ago, especially if you followed us during the Radio SLCC days, we reported on Top Gun 2, that it was a thing. And now we're updating. So Joseph Kosinski right now is the frontrunner to direct Top Gun 2, starring Tom Cruise. So we pretty much got confirmation that it's happening, and then later on we got that Joseph Kosinski, who directed Oblivion, is being considered for director for Top Gun 2. Insert playing with the boys joke here.
Yeah, looking at this, there's not much else. Go ahead.
Yeah, I don't even want to put this in the "it's happening" category. This has been happening for a part of a decade now. I'm pretty sure I recall seeing this way back in 2007 about Top Gun 2, you know, the old gang getting back together, you know, Jerry Bruckheimer, Tony Scott, before he unfortunately decided to kill himself, Tom Cruise, Val Kilmer, but it's just like, at this point, I'm still doubting this is happening.
Well, not nearly as embarrassing as when they said, oh, it's going to deal with drones and basically we all said, didn't they already make the movie about Air Force pilots fighting a drone that gained sentience?
Yeah, it was called Stealth, and it was okay.
Yeah,
could have been better, but it was okay.
Yeah, so who knows what it's about. They haven't released any story information. So far, all we know is that Tom Cruise is on board and Joseph Kosinski is tapped to direct. Based on what I saw in Oblivion, I'm not too sure how to feel about it, but then again, I don't have any real nostalgia or fondness for Top Gun, so...
Well, we did get story details when we covered it a couple of years ago, but we can't necessarily say if that's the case now, since now there's a director. We don't know if they're going with that treatment or not. That was basically going to be, I think, that Maverick was going to return to Top Gun to be an instructor, and he was going to take on a class, and that was going to be the movie. So they were basically just going to try and do Top Gun 2, but this time the mentor figure is Tom Cruise, not who was the original guy? The guy who played Viper. I can't remember. But yeah, you wouldn't have people like Michael Ironsides being the mentor figures. It would be Tom Cruise, probably. And I know that Val has been talked to about this, but last I heard, he went no, and that's where he left.
Well, he'd have to get in some serious shape before he could do that.
Oh yeah, that's why I think he went no.
Yeah,
Skerritt was Tom Skerritt was the actor you're thinking of.
Tom Skerritt?
Oh, Top Gun. Yeah.
Okay, I just want to make sure I heard that right.
I always want to. I had to look it up. I always want to say Tom Selleck, but I know that's not right.
No, but he looks really close to Selleck. So.
Yeah. Dang it! Now I have the Magnum PI theme in my head.
If it does ever happen, we need another teeth snapping from Val Kilmer. We need a lot of moments. In fact, I want a remix done by. I don't know, Lady Gaga playing with the boys. I need to have that just so that we can have another moment with, well, I don't know if I want Tom Cruise with his shirt off, but they'll find other pilots to do that with.
Well, the difference is at least Tom Cruise has kept himself in shape. So at least it wouldn't be as unpleasant to say Val Kilmer.
Yeah, but he's still getting up there in years. So, like, am I saying I want to see him in tidy whities again? No.
Yeah.
In fact, that was actually the thought that came to my mind when I saw the article. I'm just like, I looked for video footage because I was pretty certain that when he said that, he was jumping on a couch in his tidy whities. And no, I can't find video footage.
You're still referencing the couch thing. That was like 15 years ago.
I'm sorry, is Tom Cruise not a whack job?
Yeah, that takes me back because around the time that happened, my high school had a celebrity day. And I actually dressed up as Tom Cruise and tried doing the couch thing. Problem is I couldn't get anyone to be Oprah.
Look, I used to be the most hardcore Tom Cruise fan. And then this whole thing happened. Like, War of the Worlds happened. And I'm not saying that the Scientology is the thing that drove me, like, to not liking him. It was just that now he kind of just looked like a whack job. And then he took on jobs that made him look even more like a whack job. And yeah, it went downhill from there. So it's hard for me to take him seriously anymore. I mean, the only time I take him seriously, I go, oh, look, here's another Mission Impossible movie. He's cashing in that franchise to pay the rent. And it's very hard for me to take him seriously now.
Well, and we've also got The Mummy coming out in a couple of weeks that we got to look at.
You mean the movie that's supposed to kick off the Universal Monster Movie Expanded Universe?
Well, I guess this would be the second kickoff because Dracula Untold didn't quite kick it off in the way they expected. Of course, that's what happens when you basically base your plot on a Castlevania game.
Well, did we find that out, though? Like, Dracula Untold didn't do it, so they actually rerouted it to the next movie, which was The Mummy that was supposed to do it.
Honestly, Universal at this point is very much at the point where they're just like, hey, we're not going to really try to make this work anymore because I think they realized after Dracula Untold that they can't do it, so they're not going to try. So they're just thinking, we're just going to put this out. If it does well, great, but we're not gonna try to compete with Marvel because we clearly cannot.
No.
Although it is a bit of a shame. I mean, the idea of Dracula and Caligula battling in modern day, I mean, I'd watch that. But then again, the reason I enjoyed Dracula Untold is just it basically was Castlevania Lords of Shadow. Like, almost beat for beat. Yeah, it doesn't have some of the weird twistings, but that's literally what it was Castlevania Lords of Shadow. Just switch out the people, put in Patrick Stewart and Robert Isaacs, and you have Castlevania Lords of Shadow.
You know what? Screw it. I need to see this movie. I know that you've recommended that I not see it. I know a dozen people have recommended that I not see Dracula Untold. But then you guys say stuff like that. It's like, that sounds like it'd be an entertaining movie for me. So I need to see this movie just to say that I've seen it.
Okay, pro tip, stream it, don't pay for it. Stream it.
Okay.
Like, I don't mean through piracy. If it's on Netflix, watch it on Netflix. If it's at Redbox, get it from Redbox. Don't actually buy a copy.
I think I could actually get it via Prime, so I'd get it free.
Yeah.
So I'm okay with that. Like, if I had to pay money for it, I might get a little mad. But yeah, I think we've pretty much kind of given our opinions on this one. Top Gun 2, like,
it's been in development for who knows how long. So
I mean, I'm morbidly curious. I'm like weirdly curious to actually see, because I like Top Gun. I think it's still got some good moments, but I'm like weirdly curious about it. But at the same time, I'm like sitting there going, "This is never going to happen." But then again, I was also the guy that said that the Baywatch movie with The Rock was not going to happen, and well, I was wrong.
But then again, that raises the question of what kind of movie will we end up getting? Are we gonna get an actual like successful follow-up like The Force Awakens, or is this basically going to be Blues Brothers 2000 all over again?
Well, again, if they stick to the story that we read the first time, it sounds to me like it would be like a reboot. It would be it would be pretty much trying to retell the plot of Top Gun, but with new pilots instead, and having Tom Cruise as the mentor.
So basically, Blues Brothers 2000, except without the weird kid sidekick.
Wait, wasn't this done too with there was a Val Kilmer movie. I want to say it was Real Genius that they actually wanted to do a reboot of as well, and bring Val in, and he said no.
Yeah, that's the thing. Hollywood's been trying to get a bunch of reboots off the ground because there were a few successful reboots. I don't know which ones specifically. But it's very much, you have an idea that is already established in the public consciousness that we don't have to do a lot of selling on. So you've got the nostalgia dollar, you've got the dollar of people who've heard of it but don't know what it is. I mean, say someone decided to do a reboot of Rambo, for example. We all know who Rambo is, but not everybody knows about the original novel First Blood. And a lot of people in the younger generations have probably never even seen any of the Rambo films. And so it would be the kind of thing you could do a reboot of. It would be because of, we're basically rebooting Rambo.
And we did that. We called it John Rambo, and then we decided to call it Rambo instead.
No, see, the big difference is that wasn't a reboot. That was a sequel with Sly Stallone.
That was a sequel. Yeah.
I'm talking, say they decide to get, for lack of a better example, and I'm going to punch myself after the show for saying this, but say they decided to cast Channing Tatum as John Rambo.
I kind of want that image out of my head. I'm just saying. I don't think it works that well.
Well, yeah, and the chat even brought up a good example, the RoboCop reboot / remake. That's another example of them taking an idea that people know about but don't actually remember that well, and so they figured, hey, let's make a PG-13 remake of a rated R movie.
I can answer your question. Why did the RoboCop reboot happen? Simple. Because they wanted, for some strange fascination, to put Samuel L. Jackson in a really bad wig and have him be a Bill O'Reilly derivative. That's why they did that. Are you telling me you thought it was just going to be for RoboCop? Smoking?
Yeah, point being, this film's been in development for who knows how long. It's probably going to stay in development until something big happens that prompts a studio to actually put forth the money to make it. Because let's face it, Top Gun would be, even in today's market with CGI, it still would be a really expensive film to make.
I'm just going to put this out for the record. If this were to happen, because again, I've been proven wrong before, would the Shadow Blazer and Romney go and see it? I have to be honest. I'd see it.
Probably out of curiosity.
Okay, so we'd see it, but it's probably not going to happen. I say that, of course, knowing that I said the exact same thing about the damn Baywatch movie, and that happened. So there you go. Let's go ahead and move into the next story, which is I'm glad we opened with some levity, because this one is frustrating. It's heavy. It's frustrating to talk about because basically the reaction that we actually got from a lot of listeners was, I bet you guys were hoping for something like this. No, we were not hoping for something like this. But it's been the story that everybody's talked about since, I want to say, Tuesday. Yeah, Tuesday, because that's when me and Britton found out. So Zak Snyder has officially stepped down from Justice League. Now, he does cite the reason being to deal with family tragedy. Unfortunately, I believe it was his daughter that took her own life, and he needed to go handle things and be there for his family as well as be there for himself, and stepped off of the Justice League set. Now, before we go too much farther, I do need to clarify this, because people are already assuming that he was still in principal photography when he had to leave Justice League. That's not the case. Most of the principal photography had been done. He was actually editing it, and I think he had called out for some reshoots, and that's as far as it had gotten. But it just so happens to be that they have, he was the one that recommended it, that they hire Joss Whedon, that Joss Whedon, people, to finish up Justice League. So Joss would be coming in to take care of the reshoots and the editing. So is he officially in charge of Justice League? Not really. It's been filmed. He is just basically picking up the remaining pieces. The best way that I know how to describe this to people, and it's not even a good example, is originally for The Hobbit, what's his name?
Guillermo del Toro.
Guillermo del Toro was brought in, and he was working with Weta and actually doing a lot of the design for The Hobbit. He then left, and Peter Jackson took over. That's pretty much what's kind of happening here. Is like where a lot of stuff was designed and envisioned by Guillermo, and Peter came in to kind of pick up the pieces. It's not an exact example here, but that's pretty much what's happening, is that you still have the vision that Zak Snyder has put into this movie. It's just now Joss is shaping it.
Yeah, and it's not even shaping it by that much, because as the article even states, most of the groundwork is already done. They pretty much have it written. They have the shoot days planned out. Joss is basically coming there on set to basically make sure that it gets shot and matches what Snyder had planned out. That's more or less what Joss is doing here. He's not going to be drastically changing the vision. It's very much a case of, hey, this director's going through a really bad time. I'm going to just go in, make sure that these last few things are taken care of, make sure that everything runs the way it needs to so that this film can get done and be released on time. Because even though Warner Brothers wanted to actually delay Justice League because of this, Zak Snyder actually said, no, we've delayed this too long. We need to get this out on time. Bring in Joss, have him finish it up. That way we can actually release this on the day we said to release this.
Yeah, so before we start jumping for joy, because a lot of people are actually expecting that because Joss Whedon is now behind it, that we're jumping for joy. That's not necessarily the case. This is still Zak Snyder's vision, but now with a couple of tweaks here and there from Joss. So here's the thing, too. Like, some stuff has already been edited and is in the can. At that point, I don't think Joss is actually going to be touching that. He's going to be coming in to finish the job.
Yeah, especially considering the circumstances, doing any drastic changes, I mean, beyond the fact that a studio wouldn't pay for it, it would just be bad form, just all things considered. Yeah. I mean, and here's was the reaction that I had when I shared the story with my younger brother, where, I mean, we've all said it, that we didn't want Snyder to be directing it, but when the story broke, it was really the case of, okay, I know I said I didn't want him to direct, but not like this, because
Let me clarify this really quick, because a lot of people thought that, and I'm not saying that these are necessarily fans of the podcast, because you know what? I know when fans of the podcast write us, okay? I know those emails compared to this. And a lot of them was like, oh my gosh, I guess you guys are just jumping around on his daughter's grave, aren't you? No, absolutely not. Professionally, we had issues with Zak Snyder. We didn't think he was the right guy for the job. Do I wish that his daughter died or that some tragedy happened in his life that he had to leave the project? No, of course not. That sucks, and my heart goes out to him. That's a really crappy situation, and you know what? He made the right call. I do not want him making this film if he's got that on his mind. He needs to go handle some things before he gets back into filmmaking. Because that's the kind of crap that affects you so hard. It can actually, and especially for a director and a writer, it affects your style.
Yeah, especially because it's one thing when you have the death of a family, but then you compound that with the inherent tragedy that is suicide. That breaks you, like, beyond. That's like that. It's very much. It's devastating. It's utterly devastating when something like that happens. And looking at it, Snyder even was trying to work through it, but it just was a case that he just couldn't focus on it. And so he basically told Warner Brothers, "Hey, get Joss on board. I know he's willing to help out. I need to step away and basically deal with this." And so yeah, there's no other way to say it, but this just sucks. And I really do feel sorry for him. And like you said, Adam, we didn't agree with his method as a director, as an artist. We didn't agree with his storytelling methods. But again, that's just because we didn't like the work he produced. We didn't wish any ill will towards the guy. So anybody who thinks we're jumping for joy because we quote unquote got our wish, that's not how this works. Not at all.
No. We weren't like sitting around here with a voodoo doll putting needles in there for Zak Snyder. Everybody knows clearly that I have one for Michael Bay. I mean, there's a difference here. No, I don't even have that. Don't ride me on that one. I don't have that. I don't care about Michael Bay anymore. Quiet you. I know the Shadow Blazer would pipe up at this point. No. I don't care about Michael Bay anymore. That's the point. No, but to the people who are actually saying that, I'm going to do kind of a blanket thing. I don't usually do this, but none of us on the podcast, especially the ones who actually did do the review for Batman v Superman, none of us wished ill will on his family nor himself. None of that. We basically disagreed with him professionally. We didn't think he was the guy to bring this property to life. But none of us actually sat there and went, I wish something bad happens to him. No, not at all. In fact, I've reached out to most of the podcast members, and I can guarantee a lot of us are just, our thoughts are with him and hope that everything is well, especially considering this is a very, very tragic situation to walk into. I mean, as a dad and a daughter, I mean, that rocked me. I can only imagine what that did to Zach. So at that point, I just want to get that off the particular table here. So for all the people who are just like, oh, you guys wanted horrible things happen. No, we didn't. But as far as this is concerned, we also have to take this with a grain of salt. Joss is coming in to finish what Zach had done. And at that point, put a nice little bow on it and get it out. That's really all he's doing. And do I trust Joss to be able to do that? Obviously. Joss has been able to take some really craptastic projects, and whatever role he's in, he's been able to make them at least somewhat bearable kind of thing. I mean, I know in particular one of us on this panel, particularly this guy, hates Alien Resurrection, okay? But I know enough people that are Joss Whedon fans that actually believe that he is the only saving grace that made that watchable for them, is because they knew they were going to get a good job out of it. I would actually say a similar situation with Atlantis the Lost Empire. When that came out, it could have been a train wreck and a half. And the reason I say it's not is because Joss Whedon was on the writing team. And I know a lot of the good moments were written by him. So at that point, I'm saying that this is at least something of a good sign that maybe like the second half of the movie is going to look damn good.
Yeah, plus when you consider, well, that and when we consider that it was already undergoing a lot of reshoots, there's probably been a lot of drastic changes made to the film, not even necessarily at the behest of Snyder. It could be that Warner Brothers wanted to impose some changes, especially in the wake of the negative reception for films like Suicide Squad, and them not wanting, basically being desperate to finally get something right.
But see, here's the acknowledgement. There are reshoots on the table. I know I've done my homework enough to know that there are Justice League reshoots that have not been done yet. Yes, Joss is in charge of them. And yes, Joss can dictate things the way that he would do that. So they are going to look different. But here's the thing. Do I say that's a positive or negative thing? Not really. To me, that actually seems kind of jarring, because we're going to get stuff that's clearly Zach, and then we're going to get stuff that's clearly Joss. So it's going to be weird. I think it's going to clash in the movie, honestly. But well, yes, he's technically in charge of the
I don't think so, really. I don't think we're going to get that. I don't really see Whedon going out of his way to make something truly that would be out of consistency with the rest of the film. That wouldn't make any sense. Any filmmaker would know, even if you're filling in the shoes for someone else, especially in this late of the game, you're going to want to make a tonally consistent movie. Otherwise, your movie's going to become a big mess.
Well, and Joss is a team player. He'll do it. But I have a feeling like he also is an assertive guy. So I know that some of his vision is going to get put into those reshoots, if for no other reason than he can just say, well, I can see where Warner Brothers has a problem with this particular scene, and then he'll retreat it and say, does this make it better? And then it's up to Warner Brothers to approve it, kind of thing. So that's where I think it's going to happen. Do I think that Joss is going to come in and go, I directed Avengers, I know how to fix this? No. Joss is normally a team player.
Yeah, plus looking at it, it's not too difficult for skilled directors to kind of at least mesh styles together. I mean, a good example of this is AI, when Spielberg basically was trying to make the film thematically similar to
he was making it Kubrick.
And so I'm sure that Joss would probably try to have something, like you said, something that's tonally consistent, something that is in a similar style so that it doesn't stick out like a sore thumb because, well, that's kind of how it is with movies. You want to make sure that you're creating a complete package that doesn't throw the audience for a loop unless that's the intended effect. And again, we don't know what they've changed for the reshoots, how drastically things are changed, if it's a change in style, if it's a change in tone, or if it's a change in plot. But like you said, Joss is a team player. The scripting is already done for the reshoot scenes, so it's very much a case that it's already been planned out. Joss is just basically going to be the one on set making sure that things are done.
Yeah, like I said, the only way that I see him changing what they've already got in place is if Warner Brothers comes in and says, we don't like this, redo it. And then at that point, he's in charge. He needs to actually retreat the scene, and then he'll submit it to Warner Brothers. But at this point, given that we're in reshoots and edits, the company is also in charge too. And they get a lot of that dictating responsibility, and Joss is going to be there to enforce it.
Yeah, because the big thing people forget is that, directors govern the movie and govern the artistic vision, but the studio, like Warner Brothers, they're the ones paying for it. So naturally, they want to make sure that they're going to get a sizable return on that investment.
We actually did get a question in the chat I want to get into. So do you think it's too small of a cast for what you would see as a Justice League based on the preview? And do you think we'll have any extra surprise Justice League heroes? Yes, it is kind of small, but here's the thing. For that first movie, I want it to be small. I don't want to have I don't want to have the Watchtower era kind of thing. I don't want to have hundreds of heroes kind of thing. That goes into X-Men territory for me. I don't know if I necessarily want that in the DC universe. I just want a small team getting along kind of thing. Think Justice League for season 1.
Especially when you consider what has happened in the DC cinematic universe. Spoilers for Batman v Superman, if anybody actually cares, but Superman was killed by Doomsday, and thus the world is left without their strongest hero, and these are the remaining heroes coming together to basically face the threat without their ace in the hole. Yeah. Granted, they weren't even united prior to that, but it was specifically the death of Superman that is kind of the impetus for them to come together. Therefore, Bruce to specifically seek out all these other heroes. And so that's kind of where we're at. So they're not even fully united. You're not going to see the Watchtower. You probably may see the Hall of Justice at like the end of the movie after they basically saved the day. But as for the amount of heroes, when you're writing any team movie, you need to keep the team at a manageable number so that everyone gets a lot of development. Because if you have too many people, like the X-Men, then things get very cluttered, not everyone gets enough development, and you thus lose audience investment. That's actually the underlying problem that both Marvel and DC have with their comics right now, is that there's too many.
The other thing that we also need to sorry to interrupt you, Ronnie. The other thing that also has to be considered here is star power. Remember, that was one of the biggest questions we had about Avengers, is like how we need to keep the team small because we're already going to have Robert Downey Jr. on screen. We're going to have Chris Hemsworth, Chris Evans. For the most part, most of their movies were light. And so you have a lot of star power and you want to make sure that they're going to mesh well. In this case, we actually have a lot of under talent because Flash and Cyborg are new guys, but then you have Aquaman, and then you have Ben Affleck, and then you have Gal Gadot, and guys, we already know this. Henry Cavill is cast, so he's coming. If you've read The Death of Superman, you know he comes back. So you have these big talents meshing against each other. You want to make sure that it's believable, and then when it actually becomes synergy, it makes sense, kind of thing.
Yep. Just watch though. If Henry Cavill is cast, just watch when he doesn't come back as Superman. He just comes back as Eradicator. Now that would be awesome.
It would. I don't trust the script to have done that. And then the other one is we'll actually have Alex do kind of both, but also like surprise Justice League heroes. No, not really. And if there were, it would be to promote their film, kind of thing. So like with I'm trying to think. Did Avengers 2 do that?
Not really. Like the only real
they hinted at Civil War. They hinted at Civil War, and that was about it.
Yeah, and as for any characters that would be as a surprise, the only one you really have, given their lineup, would be Green Lantern, because there's the teased Green Lantern Flash movie. But even then, it'll be very...
Shazam. Shazam's got a movie that actually got bumped up.
Yes, and so those are basically the ones that we've got that could be teased. Whether or not that means an outright appearance, we don't know, because the film's not out yet, and it won't be out until November.
Yeah. The one thing that actually does worry me, and then we're going to get to Alex, is just the fact that we're supposed to still have Flash in Justice League, and he was supposed to be the next movie. And me and Brenton confirmed this on Tuesday. The Flash film is pretty much in development hell. So at that point, I don't even know if that's going to happen. They've actually taken it out of the list at this point. So you don't actually get another DC Cinematic Universe movie until Aquaman. So I don't know what to say there. But Alex, so your thoughts on the Zak Snyder situation as a whole, as well as the question that got asked.
Oh, okay. So yeah, regarding Zak Snyder, it's horrible what's happened to him. I totally get it. I totally think it's a good thing that he's gonna go ahead and just take the leave of absence and go take care of his family, take care of himself. This is a tough time for them right now. And, kind of regarding the idea that maybe we'd jump for joy if Joss Whedon was suddenly put on it. And even if I was sadistic enough to jump for joy about something like this happening, I'm not. That's pretty fucked up. Even I could tell, considering how late this movie is into development, I figured even from the start, Whedon's impact is going to be very minimal at best. I am a little surprised they went out of their way to get Joss Whedon. I don't know, maybe this is sort of Whedon's kind of backdoor way of working into wanting to get his Batgirl movie made or what, just because it's just like, yeah, going out of your way to get already kind of big director / producer who's been tied up with Marvel for a bit. I know he's, other things he's not.
Sorry, I didn't interrupt you, but I had
it's fine. Yeah, it is. It's a little strange to me. I'm not complaining. I just think it's a little unusual. And that's so I kind of lost my train of thought here, but I guess I'm a little surprised that they didn't leave it to the already current second and third units already positioned on the film that they would go out and get another director. I guess these must be some decently substantial reshoots then. Now, regarding the questions, is the cast too small? I don't know. The only people I know right now that are in it are Wonder Woman, Batman, Flash, and Aquaman. Well, I don't know. That seems about reasonable. That seems about the cast size for the first Avengers.
You forgot about Cyborg.
Oh, right, Cyborg. So, the cast seems fine. Considering this is the now, I guess, inaugural DCU. Not really inaugural because that was technically Man of Steel, but this is the big DCU movie to start really launching the universe full steam after Batman v Superman and Man of Steel, more or less. Yep. It makes sense. We gotta start a little bit small and work up. If there's one thing, you can learn from Marvel, besides we should be like Marvel. That's a whole nother argument, but it's to take a few baby steps, because we've already agreed. The floodgates, it's too late. The floodgates are open. It's not like we can go back to and start doing this in the Marvel formula. And I even advocated this on Batman v Superman. It's no point in trying to start with the whole Marvel thing and do every character and work your way up. It's too late for that. The floodgates are open. So at this point, it's now we got to do Marvel in reverse. We got to launch off with the Justice League movie and now work backwards and start going back in time to show the characters where they were before Justice League.
Well,
That
at
would
least
be my
that's
suggestion how to do it.
Yeah, at least that's how Warner Brothers is seeing it. Like, because a lot of us are recommending, please take things slow, please build things up like Marvel did, because Marvel doesn't, like, a lot of these characters have history backgrounds, but Batman and Superman are much more history and have been going on for far longer. So we really wanted that slow build up, and unfortunately Warner Brothers has said, no, we need to get to this point. We need the DCCU now, and that's the way it is.
Yeah, plus to kind of play things from their perspective, when you really think about it, audiences aren't that patient, especially when you've got Marvel already a good couple of waves in. It's very much Warner Brothers looking at us thinking, okay, we could try to slowly build this up, but we don't have that favor with the audience to basically they don't trust us yet, given that a bunch of our franchise stars have basically been dead on arrival. So they're thinking, okay, we'll start out with the T movie and branch out. That way we're not trying to do this. Basically, that's kind of a point where they can't really afford to play the long game anymore. Just because Marvel, they're on like wave 3 or 4 now. They're really looking at this and they're thinking we either basically have to start with the T movie or we're never going to catch up.
Yeah, something like that. But yeah, that's pretty much I think all we can offer on this one. Obviously we're going to go see Justice League, and we'll give you guys our opinions, but this definitely does kind of affect our viewpoint on where Justice League is going to be when we see it. But obviously we'll get into that when we actually get into the review. The next story that we're going to get into tonight, which is, I'm still kind of surprised. I don't know why I am, but I am. There has been talk already of a Resident Evil film franchise reboot, and it's been confirmed. So we know that Resident Evil is going to get a film reboot, which is going to be a 6-film reboot. Holy crap, 6 films already in it. And that we already have a new director. Alex was actually able to dig this out, and we found out that it's, or at least in consideration, that James Wan of The Walking Dead is in consideration to do the reboot.
Yeah, he's not really in consideration to direct. He's just on board to produce right now.
Oh,
he's specifically on board to produce the first film. And I don't know if James Wan actually worked on The Walking Dead, but the films that he is best known for would be the original Saw, Furious 7, and The Conjuring. Now, I was initially worried when I saw the reboot, but James Wan, of all the films of his that I've seen, James Wan, as a filmmaker, has not let me down. And this is coming from someone who, at first, wasn't really into horror films. Big shock, I know, for someone who makes a series of videos comparing horror films. But I haven't seen Saw. Furious 7, I thought it was entertaining. He did a really good job, especially with all of the behind-the-scenes drama that resulted. And The Conjuring is probably one of my favorite horror films of all time.
I'm glad you guys clarified on that. I don't know why I got Walking. It must have been one of the other articles I read where he was considered for Walking Dead. I don't know why, because it's not in here.
Yeah, I'm not sure where you got that, but at first I thought, oh, they're going to reboot it. Oh, it's the same company that produced it. But then I saw, oh, James Wan's set to produce. And I'm thinking, oh, this might actually have a bit of a chance now. I mean, it'll be a slim chance, given that even Capcom doesn't know what they're doing with the franchise. But at the very least, we at least have someone who will be producing who's not contractually obligated to cast his wife into every single thing he ever makes.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not necessarily against the idea because, again, it's not Paul W.S. Anderson doing it. Nothing against Paul Anderson, but I mean, how many movies were we in at this point? Was it 6 movies?
Yeah, it was 6 movies.
Yeah, so 6 straight movies of Paul W.S. Anderson, and yeah, he would cast his wife Mila Jovovich, even though she was technically not married to him when the series began. So at that point, I mean, I'm not going to get into semantics here, but the fact that they're going to start things fresh isn't necessarily a bad idea to me.
Well, yeah, especially when you
to go see it. No, not really.
Well, another thing to consider is that Resident Evil as a series just received a huge facelift with Resident Evil 7. and basically showing that they're going for a drastically different direction. So it's actually probably a really good time for them to reboot the live action movies to see if they can actually better match the tone and atmosphere that the newest Resident Evil game created. Because, again, that's a larger departure from the rest of the series, a very welcome departure, that I'm thinking that that's what Capcom is thinking here. It's like, hey, we just drastically reinvented the series. These live action movies are done. Let's reboot it and try to keep it more in line with this new direction going forward, which that's why they probably tapped James Wan, because James Wan knows how to do horror. Again, Saw, The Conjuring, both are kind of considered, well, for lack of a better term, modern classics, but he's definitely a good person to have on board if you're wanting to do a actual genuine horror film. And they also have the screenwriter Greg Russo, who worked on another horror film that I liked, which actually no, not Greg Russo. The person they have on board to also produce is Michael Clear, who produced Lights Out, another well-made horror film that didn't overstay its welcome.
So at this point, can we legitimately call it an action reboot? Because it sounds to me like they're really building this up for a horror reboot. Because
that's kind of what it looks like.
Yeah, all the stuff you've listed is like, this is not going in the action movie department. This is probably going to go into horror.
Which, again, goes in line with Resident Evil 7, which became less about action and more about making you crap yourself in fear.
Yeah, which, here's the thing. I'll admit it made me crap my pants, and that's probably what would actually draw me to the theater. Well, not the theater. Maybe DVD. I'm not as paranoid with DVD.
Like I still haven't even bought the game because I kind of like sleep. I kind of want to sleep. I'm gonna hold off for a while.
I wish I was you, Romney. I lost so many hours on that game. But go ahead.
Yeah, but looking at this, at first I was worried because, again, it's Constantine Films, which produced the previous 6 movies and the lackluster Fantastic Four movies. But given who they're getting to help produce this, it looks like they're, actually trying to make this as a horror film. Now, there's no guarantee that we're actually going to see the Spencer Mansion or the T-Virus. They may just go straight to trying to make something similar to the 7th film. But at the very least, it looks like, hey, they're trying to make it as a horror film. So I may, at the very least, wait for the trailers to see if they've got me sold. But so far, consider me curious.
Yeah, because at that point, I actually kind of like the idea of starting off like from a 7 perspective, because that gives you kind of an allure when you actually get brought into the wider world that is creating an issue. If they decide to go with that direction, so everybody's like, oh my gosh, this has happened before. And then at that point, it gets people curious to go look into the history of Resident Evil and say, oh, maybe even look into the previous 6 films and see like, oh, there was a Raccoon City. And yes, it did get nuked, kind of thing. Even though it wouldn't be in canon.
Yeah. So far, that seems to be what they're doing. I don't know how heavily involved Capcom is, but given that Capcom is trying to work their way into the film industry to get more of not a stranglehold, but get more of a controlling stake, kind of like what Konami did, it's very much, if there was any time to reboot the Resident Evil movies, now would be that time.
Yeah. No, I would agree on that. Alex, do you have any thoughts on the Resident Evil reboot? Because you're getting kind of introduced to the series yourself right now.
Yeah, I'm interested if it were, but it's just I'm gonna need to see more details before I can say absolutely I'll go see it.
Yeah, exactly. I'm kind of there too. Like, I want to see the direction that they're going before I confirm anything, because we've kind of listed things off. They're going for people who are in the horror department. This could easily turn around and say, oh no, this is going to be an action movie kind of thing. And actually, that personally to me is kind of what killed the first 6 movies.
Of course, I think Capcom kind of learned their lesson when, they fired George A. frickin' Romero. Now, granted, I've read George's script. It had a lot of problems, and it probably would have pissed off the Resident Evil fan base as much as the Paul W.S. Anderson film did. But I think they realized, okay, let's maybe try doing this as a horror film this time, since doing it as an action series, while it made money, didn't really curry much favor with the fan base.
Yep. So I think we've pretty much covered the final thoughts here, because that's pretty much all we can get into. We don't even have a conceptual like trailer or anything like that for this. But yes, a reboot is coming for the Resident Evil series. For those who are actually excited, great, good on you. The next thing that we need to get into is actually a story from last week, which was we've had a ton of Netflix announcements. And I had to go through and just confirm and deny all of it. And so here is the list that is confirmed, that is happening. And we even took stuff for this week too. So the first thing we got to get into, I really wish we had Aldo for this, because I would be more interested to see what he thinks about it. But Netflix has officially announced that they will be developing and producing a new show based on the Witcher saga. For those who are familiar with the games, or even, I didn't even realize but there is a series of 8 novels based on The Witcher, and then there's the game. So any of you guys who are fans of that, that's where this is going. Now, the funniest thing, or the interesting part about this, I didn't know this about the Witcher series. I'm probably going to murder the name here. It's Andrei Sapkowski. That inspired, or that actually did the novels. I don't think he's actually been brought into the games. Yeah, I think not.
Yeah, he had very little involvement with the games, and he actually doesn't even really profit from them, because when the first Witcher game was being developed, he didn't have much faith. He's very dismissive of video games as a medium. Yeah. And so he just chose to take an upfront payment from CD Projekt Red for the rights to make the Witcher games, because he thought that the game wouldn't do that well. And he's kind of currently kicking himself because, well, he took the upfront payment instead of the royalties, and thus doesn't see a dime from the successors of Assassin of Kings or Wild Hunt, because, again, took the upfront payment, not the royalties. And thus...
Now, here's the interesting part. Sapkowski is being brought in as a consultant on the series, but he is not, or, well, they make it known that he did not profit from the game series, but he is being brought in as a creative consultant for the Netflix series. So for those who are concerned, like whether or not this is going to stay true to form, especially for novel people, there you go. He's officially involved.
Well, yeah, and that's the big thing to consider, because a lot of people were shocked that CD Projekt Red isn't involved, which, again, the series is based on the books. The books came first, people. I mean, the best way to look at it, The Witcher is to Poland, because that's where the novels were first published, and that's where Andrzej, I don't know how to pronounce it, that's where Sapkowski hails from, is Poland. The Witcher series is to Poland what Harry Potter is to the rest of the English-speaking world. That's how well-known it is in Poland. And so you have, like, 30 years worth of writing that they're pulling from. And oddly enough, this actually isn't even the first time that the series has been adapted to television. There was actually a Polish television series based on The Witcher. Now, granted, Sapkowski did not like that TV series. It was pretty much produced on the same budget as Hercules: The Legendary Journeys. And so it's very much the case that this isn't even the first time that The Witcher has been adapted for the small screen. It's just this time it's being produced specifically for Netflix, and the author is having more creative involvement. Now, there is some connection to CD Projekt Red, with Tomasz Baginski, who directed the intro videos for all 3 games, is going to be directing at least 1 episode per season. So there is some bleed over, but the key thing to remember is that this is not going to necessarily be based on the games. They are basing this specifically on the novels.
Well, before people get too mad that CD Projekt Red is not involved in this, here's the thing. CD Projekt Red is busy working on other games. So, I mean, they just barely released the Cyberpunk 2077 teaser trailer. I don't know if it's actually officially out yet, but Gwent was something that they worked on for a while. The card game variant is coming out. And there is actually talk of another Witcher, or either another DLC or another Witcher in the works. So they got other shit to do, pardon my French. So at this point, the fact that he's going to be brought in for at least 1 episode per season, be thankful at least for that, you know? As far as Sapkowski, though, I'm also happy to announce, because I love the quotes here, he is thrilled that Netflix will be doing an adaptation, but he wanted to also explain in a press release that they will be staying true to the source material and the themes that I've spent over 30 years writing. So at that point, if you are worried about that, there's your confirmation right there.
Yep. Yeah, so it's very, very good. I'm kind of glad that they're bringing Sapkowski on board, even if he is a bit of a jerk, which... Yeah. That's not even like an exaggeration. well, most writers, but him especially, because I literally had this discussion with my older brother a couple of days ago. You have Sapkowski, who wrote the Witcher series, very dismissive of the fan community, very dismissive of video games as a medium. But then on the opposite end of the spectrum, you have the writer behind the Metro 2033 series, who allows people to publish fan novels. He actually says, like, oh, hey, I like this fan novel. Go ahead and publish it. You've got my permission. And he also loved the games. He's actually very open and embraces the fan community. And that author had some choice words about Sapkowski, I can tell you that. So hopefully this will be a better interpretation that Sapkowski will be satisfied with, and it'll at least introduce more people to the world of The Witcher beyond the games. But yeah, it's just very much, I'm excited to see what they do with it, but I'm going to hold my breath because, let's face it, sometimes Netflix has been hit or miss with some of their original programming.
Yeah, I'll admit I'm a little excited about it too, so I'll look into it, obviously, when it comes out. Maybe even do vlogs on it, I don't know. Alex, before we move into the next one, your thoughts on the Witcher TV series?
Got none, really. I've never played any of the games, and I've never read any of the books, so...
Are you at least happy that it was...
So really got nothing. I wouldn't know, because I've never read the books.
Okay.
So I wouldn't care either way.
All right, so the next major Netflix announcement that we're going to get into, and this one got sent to me quite a bit, because I've talked about it on the Evening of Geekery and all that fun stuff. A Dark Crystal prequel series is in the works at Netflix. So we actually have the official title, which is The Dark Crystal Age of Resistance, is being worked on at Netflix. It is a prequel to the movie that came out. Yes, the Jim Henson movie, The Dark Crystal. And this is going to be a prequel to setting up the events for that. So a lot of it's going to be, from what I've actually been able to read on it, it's going to be kind of a political intrigue kind of deal, especially with the Skeksis. I think a lot of it is, according to information we already know, is going to be based a lot on the Skeksis. I don't know how much they're going to go into the other race for this. I don't even know if the other race has too much to provide. Political intrigue is really Skeksy territory.
Well, looking at basically the premise, the idea is that when three Gelfling discover the horrifying secret behind the Skeksis' power, they set out on an epic journey to ignite the fires of rebellion and save the world. And it's going to be a 10-episode series.
Yep. So people wanted to know my thoughts on this. Obviously, I'm excited because I do love the classic Dark Crystal that came out way back when. I know it's corny as crap, and I know that there's issues with it, but I like it. And it sticks well with me. So the fact that they're going to do the series, and it's, this is actually a cool thing to me as well, because it's going to be a Muppet-driven series. A lot of animatronics in it. So I'm excited. I'll check it out. I saw the trailer and was like, ooh, this is actually really cool.
Yeah, I haven't seen the trailer, but I feel I do need to disclose something. As a kid, now keep in mind, I was a really young kid. I did not actually like the Dark Crystal when I saw it. Like, basically, keep in mind, I think I was like a good 5 or 6 years old when my mom got the VHS tape. But even me and my older siblings, when we watched it, it was a little too dark, a little too scary for us, and we genuinely did not like the film. So I know that there are Jim Henson fans out there who are going to want to punch me in the stomach. So I'm not as excited, but keep in mind, I was like 6 years old when I saw the film, and it scared the crap out of me.
Well,
so
at least I'm not one of them. Because here's the thing: when I first saw the Dark Crystal, it was like at midnight, and I got scared of it, but I pushed myself on. I needed to see how it ended, kind of thing. Yeah. So that's one of those things where I can understand it, but yeah, I'm excited at least in the aspect of I like the story that was being told.
Well, yeah, and I'm definitely curious because, let's face it, dark fantasy is a bit of a tough sell, and it's not the first time we've seen an expansion on Jim Henson's works. I know Tokyo Pop did a sequel comic series for Labyrinth, which had its fair share of issues. And so, at the very least, I may check it out to at least look at some of the technical aspects of the series to kind of appreciate that. And who knows, maybe I'll actually watch the film and see if I'm able to process things and understand things better as an adult than as an easily terrified 6-year-old.
Well, I think what we're actually announcing here is that apparently me and Romney are going to come together and do a double vlog on the first episode of The Dark Crystal and tell you what we thought. Something like that. I don't know. We haven't talked on this. Obviously, this is where we're talking. Alex, do you have any thoughts on The Dark Crystal Age of Resistance before we move on?
Once again, one of the things I have no idea what to say on because I've never seen it.
You've never seen it, really?
No,
Jiminy Christmas. We need to find a lot of early stuff. Have you seen Labyrinth?
not all the way through. I've seen mostly just clips or scenes of Labyrinth.
Okay, well, then I'll give you that. But because here's the thing, Dark Crystal is kind of a niche thing, so I'll give you that. But at least you've seen it.
Yeah, it was definitely a period in time when Jim Henson was wanting to be more experimental. Because a lot of people think, oh yeah, he created the Muppets, he helped create Sesame Street, but he very much was an experimental filmmaker. You have stuff like The Dark Crystal, you have stuff like Labyrinth, even some of the short films he made that didn't even have puppets. It was very much a case, he was very much, if he hadn't died at the time he did, he probably would have gone to straight up David Lynch levels of surrealness if he was still alive right now.
Well, and if you've seen his documentaries, man, he wanted to push the envelope with Muppets. So at that point, like, I was excited with whatever they were going to do with it. So let's go ahead and move into the third and the one that people actually wanted us to talk about tonight. Yes, the trailer dropped. Castlevania is a thing on Netflix. So I'm just going to ask really quick, how many of us have actually seen the trailer?
I've seen it.
Okay, so you have two fans of the series, one person being brought into the series that I want to say is a fan, because for the most part you've enjoyed the games, but like, I'm not going to say you're hardcore, Alex. If I'm wrong, then you can let me know. But we now have an official trailer for Castlevania, the Castlevania one we've talked about a couple of weeks ago, or at least I want to say a month ago, when we brought up that Adi Shankar is on board to produce it. So, yeah, let's just go ahead and get into our thoughts here. Mine are very simple. It looks good. It looks. The only comparison that I can give is, like, it looks very Trinity Blood in animation style, and I kind of think that works for the characters, because I could also say that, like, the way the characters look, it makes sense for them to be in the Castlevania series. Like, these could be character sprites in Symphony of the Night, kind of thing.
To kind of explain to people, this particular animated series we're getting is based on the third NES game, Dracula's Curse. So we're focusing specifically on Trevor Belmont, who, for those of you who follow the Castlevania Igarashi timeline, was the first person to fight against Dracula. Now, keep in mind, Leon, yes, was the first Belmont, but Dracula didn't get...
Leon's
Dracula
the one that made the vow.
Yeah, Leon's the one that made the vow and made the whip, but Trevor was the first person to stake the count.
Yes, so Trevor's the first guy. So to bring this into perspective for the Shadow Blazer, this is based on Castlevania 3. So when we played that and all the multiple characters and all that, that's the journey that they're trying to depict right here. So, I mean, my thoughts obviously is the animation style looks really, really, really good. I'm actually very excited for it as of right now. I can only tell, time will only tell to see whether or not they stay true to it. I don't know. I'm still holding like that little pinch of salt, just in case it sucks. But right now it looks okay.
Yeah, from what I've saw, the animation that we see looks good, but I am a bit wary given that we didn't see that much of it. The shots we saw were cut very quickly.
Yes.
And so that's what has me a little bit concerned where, okay, the animation may look good, but are they cutting that quickly because they maybe had to cut a few corners? I mean, at the very least, it doesn't look as bad as, say, Berserk, but it's very much a case of, okay, this may have kind of the, well, for lack of a better example, kind of a Voltron Force sort of animation style. Not Legendary Defender, but the series that was animated in-house by World Events Productions that looked kind of crappy.
Well, I mean, the way that I took it was we only got the announcement, a couple of months ago, which means they've probably been working on it for a couple of months before that. So maybe they just didn't have a whole lot of actual scenes to take footage from for the trailer. But I can see your point of view. It looks like it's very rapidly cut together, and yeah, you could take that as like it's going to be as bad as things get in the new Berserk. I'm going to hold, like I said, I'm going to hold out that little grain of salt. Hopefully, it's just because the episodes are not completely drawn yet, and we'll get a much better product later.
Yeah, and I mean, looking at what I saw as a Castlevania fan, I'm still at least excited because it looks like they're actually trying to basically be that gothic horror that Castlevania is meant to be. They're not going the Double Dragon route where it's just like, we're going to go completely silly. It's very much, hey, we're going to go full-on gothic horror, still keeping those sense of the Japanese flourish, but it's very much, we're aiming for adults here, we're not aiming for kids here. So at least there, I'm at least confident, and given Adi Shankar's body of work, it's very much a case of, okay, at least here, it's not going to shy away from some things. I mean, yeah, it'll still keep the content, like, appropriate for audiences, but it's not going to try to do it to a degree that almost, for lack of a better term, castrates it.
Yeah. I'm more interested in what you think, Alex, because you're kind of coming in here with new eyes. Like, me and Romney are kind of judging this already. We're wanting this to be good, but we already have some issues with it. You're kind of the fresh eyes here. What did you think of the trailer?
I thought it looked really interesting. I'm actually really surprised they went with the whole anime aesthetic, considering this, as far as I can tell, this is an entirely US production. You know, you have Frederator Studios and you have another animation studio. I had it, but I closed out IMDb, so never mind. But yeah, it looks like an entirely US production going for an anime aesthetic. So I'm curious how it will finally look. You know, I'm probably going to check it out myself when it drops in June. So it looks interesting to me.
Yeah, it's actually set for July, not June.
Sorry, July. You're right. July. So I think it looks interesting. I'll totally check it out. Yeah, Drac has slowly been kind of introducing me into the world of Castlevania through the old classic games. And I've enjoyed what I've seen through that. So why not?
Yeah, and we haven't really gotten to the games that are more your era. So at that point, I can say this. The next game that we're going to be taking on is more into the 16-bit era, what Alex would know. And so at that point, that's where he can get like more keenly interested.
Yep. Of course, if you ever need a brief refresher on the primer of the Igarashi timeline, more than happy to help. I know on the first episode you guys did of Bloodlines, I posted like a full-on explanation of things that you kept asking.
I'm glad that you did that because, you know, it's one of those things where I know where certain games fit in the timeline, I really do, but then there's those odd outliers that I can't necessarily explain. So I'm glad that you put in the big old post saying, like, this is where it is in the timeline, this is what's going on. Because some things get really confusing.
Yeah. Especially
after a while.
Yeah, especially around Bloodlines, and who knows, if they continue with the Netflix Castlevania series, that raises the question. If it gets popular enough, would they continue with Trevor, or would they be basically making a series based on specific Belmonts, where first you have Trevor, then they would go down and do Simon?
I could already tell you, like, talking to fellow Castlevania friends along with this, is that already the question is being asked of, like, if this does well, can we get Simon? Can we get other things? I already know of a friend who is probably deeper into the lore than me, who has been begging for this for a long time and has never gotten it. Is like, can we get a Demon Castle Wars 1999, which has never been cataloged and anything like that? I was like, it could, but it just depends on the popularity.
Yep, especially when you consider how that raises the other question: how involved is Konami in this production? Are they saying, "Hey, yeah, follow the Ego timeline," or are they going to go more, "Okay, follow Lords of Shadow," or are they basically going to go like, treat it as a separate universe, don't worry about the canon, which could very much go in any direction at this point. And so far, given that Konami wasn't even mentioned in the credits of the trailer, because they showed Netflix, they showed Frederator, but they didn't show any like intro bumpers from Konami. That raises the question: how involved are they? And if they're involved at all, how much creative freedom is Adi Shankar and Frederator being given with this property?
And that was a question that I had too. And at this point, I don't know what to tell you, and I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, because, you know, being able to have that Konami representative. If we were talking about this 5-10 years ago, I would have wanted that. Now I don't know if I want that. That's the thing. Yeah. So at this point, the way that I'm looking at it is it's being written for fans, by fans kind of thing. At least that's the assumption, and we'll see what comes out of it.
Yeah,
that's
especially
really the most we can expect.
Yeah, especially given that you also have other Belmonts people tend to forget about. Because, yeah, you have Trevor, you have Simon, you have Julius, but you could probably also get some really good story potential out of Belmonts like Christopher and Soleil Belmont, especially given that during Christopher's adventure, Soleil Belmont, who was supposed to inherit the whip, gets kidnapped and converted by Dracula. So there's a lot of good story potential with even some of the lesser-known Belmonts. Let's just hope they don't try to work in Sonya, because that will make things way too confusing.
Yeah, don't do that. I would actually say just stick to, if you're going to do stuff like that, stick to the popular stories in that regard. So Trevor, Simon, if you want to do a la carte, like Symphony of the Night style, feel free to do so. I would much more prefer you stick with the Belmonts. In particular, the ones I want to see at least are Trevor, Simon, and Richter. I want to see those, but if you want to include Alucard in there, I'm not necessarily against.
Given that Alucard was present during Trevor's adventure,
yeah,
he's gonna be in there. They literally teased him in the trailer. And
no. What I mean is like doing a Symphony of the Night retelling. Kind of
well, another way to when you really look at it, if you were to adapt Symphony of the Night, you have two characters you could focus on. You have Alucard, who has his motivations, but then you also have Maria Renard, who joined Richter on his previous adventure, also trying to basically find things out. So there's a lot you could do with Symphony of the Night and its initial premise. You could either focus on Maria, you could focus on Alucard, or you could basically have episodes where you're constantly changing perspective from one character to another.
Yeah. So kind of wrap up final thoughts here. I mean, all of us are fairly optimistic about the Castlevania series. I'm at least more optimistic than I was when we originally reported on it, because I was really worried about what they were going to do, especially since there was no involvement from Konami. I don't even did you actually say Igarashi was involved? I don't think he is.
I don't think he is, because Igarashi is off doing Bloodstained Ritual of the Night.
Yeah, so at that point, they don't even have him to rely on.
Yeah, because all they really have is the timeline that Iga created, but then again, that was more or less abandoned in favor of Lords of Shadow after Iga left the company.
Exactly. So let's go ahead and get into the last story of the evening, because we're running out of time. But this is the other one that drew... Holy crap, the internet exploded when this story broke. I cannot believe half the crap that I actually saw, both in my Facebook and my Twitter. And I'm talking friends and family that were saying this stuff. And I'm just not there with you. I'm not saying names, but it's been officially announced, I think this happened either Monday or Tuesday, that Tom Holland cast Spider-Man. He is Peter Parker in Spider-Man Homecoming. He has been officially cast in the upcoming Uncharted movie as Nathan Drake. Okay? Now, here's the thing that irritates me. The internet jumped over a good portion of this story, and some of that they needed to actually know. According to the vision that is put in place for this Uncharted movie, it is not based on like the first game. It's based actually in kind of a prequel mode where it's a young Nathan Drake, which is something people again on Twitter were like, this has never been done. Then you've never played Uncharted 3 or Uncharted 4 because it's been done. There has been a young Nathan Drake that's been cast for those, and there have been flashbacks. That's the story that this is trying to tell, and that's why Tom Holland is cast as Nathan Drake. Okay? Is this a permanent casting? Who's to say? He's not even old enough! Well, of course, numbnuts. He's not old enough because that's not where they're going.
Adam, I think your microphone went dead for a little bit.
Did it?
Yeah.
So it wasn't just me.
Yeah, I thought it was my internet connection, but that's why I had to move the headphones away because it went dead and then BAM!
Oh, sorry. Where did you lose me then?
I don't even know. It was like at the start of the rant.
Yeah, suddenly you just went real quiet. I thought it was me again.
Okay.
Because
I'll adjust it really quick. But yeah, so the internet jumped on the fact that Tom Holland was like, he's too young. It was like, well, numbnuts, he's not too young. This is a young Nathan Drake movie. He's perfect at that point. If you're talking about adult Nathan Drake, yeah, probably. But given what they're actually going to do with it, no, it's perfectly fine. You guys got quiet again. Did I die again?
No, it's just I'm just looking at the...
We're waiting for you.
Okay, so that's the thing that actually kind of irritates me with the internet is that they immediately jumped on that particular detail and didn't read that that's not what the vision is going for. So with that, Alex, you're an Uncharted fan. Where are your thoughts on what they're trying to do, and also with the Tom Holland casting?
Yeah, I'm afraid I have to join the angry internet mob on this one. I'm afraid, not to the extent I want to be all pissed off, but I don't see Tom Holland as Nathan Drake, old or young. Period. I mean, granted, the only movie I've seen him in right now is obviously Civil War, but I still don't see the purpose of making an entire movie around young Nathan Drake instead of just starting us off with Nathan Schultz. No, does anybody really care beyond the brief flashback in Uncharted 3 about young Nathan Drake enough to follow him for potentially a 2-hour movie?
After 4, I do.
I don't personally. I'd rather them just follow the present timeline of present Nathan Drake.
Okay.
As a scene, as a setup, as the prologue in a movie, fine. I'd be fine with it, but I wouldn't want an entire movie about young Nathan Drake.
See, and I'm not in that camp just yet, because again, I think 4 actually did a lot of really great ideas with the young Nathan Drake, especially going into his background, because that background eventually played into the Uncharted 4 story. So I'm not necessarily against it, and I kind of get where they're going. They want to do like a hero's origins kind of story, and in this case, I think
every hero movie, we got too many origin movies these days. It's just like, let's get into it already. I'm so sick of origin movies.
Okay, I agree with you. I agree with you on that concept. We have too many origin stories, but at that point, this is one of those times where I'm okay with it, because I've had enough questions about Drake's past that I'd like answered in some format, kind of thing. Because all of the stories are mostly in his adult life, kind of thing. But obviously, you and me are kind of not in that agreement. I think this is an interesting idea at the very most right now. But hey, I'll eat crow the second that this turns out to be sucky, kind of thing. Romney, where do you stand on the Uncharted series? Like, are you okay with the casting?
I'm okay with the casting, but I'm kind of with Alex in the fact that I think it's kind of strange that they're going with the prequel right out of the gate. I mean, yeah, there are questions that were raised by Uncharted 3 and Uncharted 4. Granted, I've only played Uncharted 1, so I've only seen Nathan Drake as an adult. But especially if you're trying to make a movie that's supposed to appeal to a broader fan base, which is kind of what movies based on video games are trying to do, starting with a prequel may not be the best move on Sony's part, because, well, it's kind of the same problem you had with stuff like young Sherlock Holmes, young Hercules, or the young Indiana Jones adventures. People don't honestly really care that much about the young versions of these characters. It's usually better. People kind of care more about these characters when they're in their prime, or at least at the point where the main story starts. So honestly, if it's for like a small scene, if they do kind of what they did for Temple of Doom, where you had River Phoenix as a young Indiana Jones in the opening scene to explain. Yeah, Last Crusade. Sorry, I really need to rewatch those movies. But if you start with the Last Crusade sort of thing, where you have Tom Holland as the young Nathan Drake to maybe seed ideas for what the main story is about, and that you follow with an adult Nathan Drake, that would be a better approach. But going straight to a prequel, unless they're keeping this to a very limited straight-to-video sort of release that's meant specifically for the fans, I don't really see this as being a very good business move.
Yeah, and here's the thing. Like, I'm with you guys. I don't necessarily think it's that either. Like, 4 made it at least intriguing to me. And before people actually ask, the main reason that I'm intrigued is because I don't necessarily want to know about young Drake. I want to know about his parents. Because 4 left some questions about his parents, and that's more the thing that I'm aiming for. I want more stuff on his parents. And I also want to see him kind of come into his own, because when you get into the Uncharted series, he's already that, Indiana Jones-esque genius when it comes to whatever treasure it is they're hunting. And I'd love to see how he actually got to that point, kind of thing. But here's the thing. I'm the first person to admit, this is more my own weird fascination. Is it logical for us to go that route? No, but I would actually dare say it's probably not even logical to repeat the games. Go and tell a new, unique story with Drake. so that now like movie fans and game fans can have different new interactions to have with Nathan, kind of thing. Am I wrong in that?
Not necessarily. I'm just looking at kind of what Sony is hoping to do, especially given that they've been trying to make more and more movies based on their various games. It's definitely a risky move. Now, Tom Holland as an actor, I haven't seen him in a lot of things. I've only seen him in Civil War, so for all I know, he probably would do a good job as the young Nathan Drake. But it's very much a case they better make the story interesting enough to actually hold the audience's attention, especially when you're trying to attract a new audience to a franchise, because that's kind of the problem that Ratchet and Clank kind of ran into, where it tried to appeal to, it kind of tried to have it both ways, where it tried to appeal to kids but also appeal to old fans with certain moments of fan service, and it just didn't quite work.
No. And as far as that is concerned, I agree with you guys wholeheartedly. The only thing we have is Civil War. Really, my litmus for Tom Holland is coming up in Spider-Man Homecoming, whether or not he can pull that off. And I think he's got another casting like with a TV show that I might watch the episode he's in, and just to see like his acting ability before I say I don't like Tom Holland, because at that point my problem is that I can't think of anybody else to play Nathan Drake. Not even adult Drake. I can't think of anybody.
Yeah,
aside from maybe well, I mean, this is the obvious one, but oh crap, what's his name? From Firefly, the guy who like everybody says he is.
Nathan Fillion.
Nathan Fillion. Like aside from saying Nathan Fillion should trim down and go play it, I can't really think of anybody else.
Well, I mean, another actor you could probably get who I think would do an okay job would probably be Stephen Amell from Arrow.
Yeah,
he probably would do a pretty decent job. I mean, that's more or less the character he played in Ninja Turtles, was basically the slightly charming everyman. So Stephen Amell would probably do a pretty good job as Nathan. Would probably be another good choice for Nathan Drake.
Yeah, probably. I wouldn't necessarily be against the casting, but that's kind of my problem. Like I can't think of the guy who makes me just jump out of my chair. Like
well, I know that
Well,
I know there was a series of commercials around the time of the PS3's launch that they were able to find an actor to actually look convincingly like Nathan Drake. So I'm pretty sure that it wouldn't be that hard to find maybe an unknown actor who can pull that sort of thing off. Because I know, yeah, they had a lot of CGI stuff with what's the flaming clown person? Is it Clownface or?
Oh, I couldn't tell you. I know that. Yeah, I know who you're talking about, but I don't know his name.
Sweet Tooth, that's his name.
Sweet Tooth.
You have Sweet Tooth with CGI. You had some of the other characters CGI, but like I know Kratos was somewhat CGI. But I know for some of those commercials, they had a live-action actor playing Nathan Drake. So for all we know, there's probably an unknown actor they could also get, which may even be a bit of a safer bet. Maybe if they get an unknown actor to play Nathan Drake, and maybe have an established actor to play Sullivan.
Yeah.
I think that's what you're gonna have to do, really.
That's the other issue that I have, is I don't know who would play Sully.
I've always advocated for Tommy Lee Jones. That's just one that's always stuck in my mind, but yeah, I'd be open for other possibilities too for Sully.
I know one that's been brought up to me a lot is like people want apparently Jon Voight to do it, and he's actually the one guy I'd say no. Because I think he's actually too old for the role. Because he's up there in years.
Yeah.
At that point, I don't know if I necessarily want him doing it, but at the same time, like, I can't think of anybody like off the top of my head who feels like the Sully-esque character.
Well, I mean, off the top of my head, someone who could probably pull it off, Bryan Cranston, maybe. Like, I can, yeah, because
that might work. Yeah.
Yeah, I like that a little bit.
Yeah, because given especially after looking at his role in The Infiltrator, he's definitely that. He would not be my first choice. I can't think of much else, but if he was cast as Sully, I'd be like, okay, Bryan Cranston, good actor. He could pull it off.
Yeah, exactly. Or, I mean, I'm spitballing here, and I can't even justify this, but like Harrison Ford right now probably could do it too. But the problem is that then you immediately go into the jokes of, oh look, it's old Indy guiding old Drake kind of thing.
Yeah.
I'd still take that over a fifth Indiana Jones movie. I'm just like, Ford, you're too old to be doing Indiana Jones.
Especially with Sheila Booth.
Well, Shia LaBeouf's made it clear he's not
Shia is
back.
coming back for Indy 5.
I did like the idea, though, that somebody actually brought up where, because of the recent casting for the Han Solo movie, that they got to get the same guy to do an Indy movie. And I kind of am there. He really does look like Harrison. So I'm not against it.
Yeah, but it's very much a case that Harrison Ford's not going to let that role go for a long time. He's got to be clutching that fedora on his deathbed, and it's just like, Harrison, let go of the fedora. And he's just like, no.
Well, and the other problem is
all the roles to cling to.
The other problem is, like, look is one thing, whether or not the actor can pull it off. That's the other thing. I'd want to see the Han Solo movie before I settle.
Yeah. I'd say let's see him actually as young Han Solo before we get that far.
But yeah, I think that's going to go ahead and wrap things up because we are actually officially at 10 o'clock tonight. So let's go ahead and wrap things up for the evening. If people want to get a hold of us for the various opinions that we've displayed or want to get into other stuff that you kind of wish that we were able to talk about, Alex the Shadow Blazer, how do people get a hold of you? And also, what is going on your channel? Like, what is brand new that they can look into?
Okay, well, the best place to find me, of course, here on YouTube, Shadowblazer 3000 is my channel where, of course, I produce all sorts of different kinds of anime content, reviews, some lists, and so on. And I do the occasional game content, the occasional Let's Play to break up the monotony, just keep the gears rolling in my head, keep things fresh. So, of course, right now I'm slowly churning out Sonic Adventure 2 parts. I'm just kind of... It's my own fault, really. I just keep being lazy when it comes to editing. So, but I'm working on it, I promise. I'm also gonna go ahead and say that I'm already in the process of scripting on my next review. I'm gonna go ahead and jump into a silent voice, Koei no Katachi, which I know I just barely vlogged, but I also just found a usable file that I can actually make footage with. So yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and review that. So it's going to be a pretty quick turnaround from vlog to proper review this time.
Yeah. All right. And so there you go. For Stephen Romney of Studio Ghost Utah, what do we have to look forward to upcoming on your channel? And also, how do people get a hold of you if they want to actually have these conversations with you?
Well, you can always find me here on YouTube at youtube.com/StudioGhostUtah. You can also find me on Facebook at facebook.com/RonMe'sReviews, no apostrophe. And I'm also on Twitter at RonMeReviews. While I don't have any new releases just yet, I mean, the newest video I have was a review of King Arthur, Legend of the Sword. I am working on the next video of From the Shelf. It's kind of run into some behind-the-scenes trouble, so I may be producing some smaller videos to kind of fill in that time, especially given that it's been a full 2 months. And I also have a little side project that I'll also be working on with the Geek News panelists that I'll announce once I have an official name for it and an official format at a later date. And as for, well, tradition, this week's Romney's recommendation probably would have been a recommendation last week if I hadn't literally been obsessed with Saints Row 4, and that is Fire Emblem Echoes Shadows of Valentia. Now, many people know, if you've listened to the podcast for a while, I am kind of one of the resident Fire Emblem fans. And the reason why this game is fascinating is that it is a reimagining of the second Fire Emblem game, Fire Emblem Gaiden. Now, if you're expecting something like Fates or Awakening, you'll be sorely disappointed. This is a harder, more difficult game that kind of has balances of both dungeon crawling, but the key thing here is it keeps you on your toes. Experience gains are a lot smaller in this game. You don't really get the option to grind your characters into super soldiers, and you also have to manage resources, such as, you can either give your characters a healing item or a weapon. They can't carry both. And so it's definitely a more challenging, harder core Fire Emblem series, but if you've been won over by games like Awakening and Fates and want to try a more retro-style Fire Emblem game, then that is what Shadows of Valentia is for. So that's this week's Romney's recommendation, Fire Emblem Echoes Shadows of Valentia.
All right. And really quick before I start pimping my own stuff, the other thing I forgot to pimp out with Alex was that we actually do our own channel, and we are making for a 100 subscriber milestone this summer. So we are looking for suggestions on that, but also for you guys to go out and recommend our channel as much as we do, which is Drac and Shadow. So you guys can look that up on YouTube. We have numerous Let's Plays for you guys to go to check out, and numerous awesome moments for you guys to enjoy. We have lots of fun. doing that those particular Let's Plays. Now, for me, if people want to get a hold of me on YouTube, you're obviously on my channel right now, which is youtube.com/Strack2326. It's where I do gaming content, where I do vlogs, reviews, obviously podcasts, because I have this plus 2 other podcasts. And if you're looking into stuff that I've done recently, I actually had a double header with Drac Tries this week, where I had Skylar and Plux and Ryan come out this week. And so you guys can check out the tries for both of those, and both are really, really good. I've been really satisfied with both of them, what I've been able to play. You can also contact me on Twitter at Drac2326 and leave the conversations there, and I get to you as quick as I can there, but sometimes it takes me a little bit, so bear with me. Now, if you want to get a hold of the show, or if you want to contact the show directly or support the show, the first thing that I'm going to aim you guys to is our RSS feed, which is geekyweek.podomatic.com. I know that it's not the most updated right now, but we're working round the clock to get that taken care of. But that's also where the link to the iTunes page is. So if you guys want the iTunes page, there's where you go to get it. And you can get our more crisp, clean audio for your morning or evening commute. That's the place to be able to go to it. So geekyweek.podomatic.com. If you want to leave stories for us or leave feedback for the podcast, you can do so at geekyweek@gmail.com. And we do read that stuff. We obviously had some listener suggested stories tonight. You guys can check that out, or you guys can leave your stories and all that there. If you want to support us on social media, the 2 best ways to be able to do so is first on Facebook. Look up Geek News, Reviews, and Opinions and like it. And you'll get up-to-the-minute information when we're going live, the stuff we may be talking about, the upcoming stuff on all of our individual channels, as well as any collaboration efforts that we take care of. And you will get the exact same thing on our Twitter as well, which is @GeekyNRO. I might actually change that, though. I do like the whole, Alex has been doing it, doing the podcast as GNRO. We might just change it to that so that we have a little bit of consistency in that regard, but I'll let you guys know if that decision comes to pass. And that's going to go ahead and do it for us this evening. We thank you guys so much for joining us on tonight's podcast. We have so much more in store, including we're getting ready for E3 coverage in the next couple of weeks, so you guys can enjoy that also. And of course, we got to wrap things up. So for me, for Alex, and for Romney, we will see you guys next week for even more geek news, reviews, and opinions.